What's up? I'm John Cena. Smash the like button. If you also noticed how all elite wrestling stand podcasters changed their tune on the company ever since Vince stepped down from World Wrestling Entertainment. Oni Khan has been exposed ever since.
Now, why do I still call it the World Wrestling Federation? Why do I still call it the WWF? It's because 50 Cent still calls it the WWF. That's why I still call it the WWF. Now, let's move on to Tony Khan Man. Here are 13 reasons why he is the new Vince McMahon 2.0. Reason number 1, he is very stubborn and very hard-headed. He don't realize that he has low numbers every week, and the crowd keeps on telling him, push bigger men. The fact that he don't let other people tell storylines, that's the problem. He wants to write everything. Every week, he wants an overrun. Overruns don't always work. Who is telling you to do overruns? I think that is a Tony Khan Man call. That's called being very stubborn, very hard-headed. We tell you you have too many matches on the card. He don't care. He adds more matches. We tell him book big men correctly. He don't give two shits. We tell him, why don't you book the females correctly? He don't give a damn. He thinks for himself. If we want Hobbs to be pushed, he don't care. He wants to push his own talent that he sees in himself. That's the problem. He likes small men. So yes, he's very hard-headed. Everybody always gives him advice, but he don't listen. You see your numbers going down every week, but you don't want to make a change. All you want to do is do a hot shot booking match. Nobody asks for Okada versus Bryan Danielson. Nobody asks for Will Ospreay versus Ricochet this early. That's called hot shot booking. That's called desperation. That's called being hard-headed. Now, what is reason number 2? Reason number 2 is he handles contracts the same, exactly like Vince McMahon. Let's talk about Penta and Rey Fenix. This dude added on more months to their contracts just because they were bragging to the locker room that they were going to the World Wrestling Federation. Khan Man did not like that. So he forced his rule on their contracts, knowing he did not have to do that. You are the boss of the company. Okay. How was that business? Okay, by your logic, he had no right to fire CM Junk. And here's why. CM Junk was more so injured than healthy in his career in all elite wrestling. He was always hurt, right? So by that logic, shouldn't you add more months to his contract? Why would you fire him? Oh, right, because you have the power to terminate contracts, right? So you terminated CM Junk's contract even though he had more months left on his deal, right? Because he was injured, which means you can add more time to his contract. So why would you fire him? Oh, but you want to hold the Lucha Bros hostage, right? Because you know Triple H and Shawn Michaels are going to book them strong. That is a Vince McMahon trait. You handle contracts exactly the same. Exactly like Vince McMahon. Under the Vince McMahon regime, he used to always do that. Add more time to people's contracts. If they were trying to be released, he would add more months to their contracts so they won't leave, so they can possibly change their mind. That's what Vince McMahon used to do. Vince used to hold people hostage, but this is the same man who used to talk shit about Vince McMahon. But bro, you are turning into a poor man's Vince McMahon. Let's talk about reason number 3. Reason number 3 is he signs big names and he books them like shit, and then he gets bored with them. That's what Vince McMahon used to always do. He used to get bored with talent. That is a Vince McMahon trademark. He would sign big name free agents, and then eventually Vince McMahon will get bored with them. Just like what he did with the Good Brothers. He will get bored with you very, very fast. If he feels like you ain't drawing shit or he don't like how you wrestle, Vince will bury you and you will be in catering. That's what Vince McMahon used to do. He will sign you to a big contract, then eventually he will get bored with you and he will move on. That's what Tony Khan Man does. That is very Tony Khan light. Look at Pac-Man. Look at the Hardy Boys. The list goes on and on. How about Big Cass? I'm naming all these ex-guys from the World Wrestling Federation. What about Tony Nese? What about Buddy Murphy? What about Malachi Black? All these free agents that Tony Khan Man didn't do a damn thing with. What about Adam Coleslaw? What about Kyle O'Reilly? What about Keith Lee? All these are shiny new toys that Khan Man got bored with, just like Vince McMahon would have. Reason number 4, he is a control freak, just like Vince McMahon. He wants to be in charge of everything in all elite wrestling. He wants to book Rampage. He wants to book Dynamite. He wants to book Ring of Honor. He wants to book Collision. That's called being a control freak. Put down the pen. Why don't we get different perspectives on booking shows? The fact that Khan Man has multiple hats, that is killing these shows. That's what Vince McMahon used to do. He was a control freak. He wrote SmackDown. He wrote Raw. Hell, he was trying to write NXT. Vince was in charge of everything. He did not want to hear no second opinion. It was all about Vince McMahon. He was a control freak. That is Con Man. Con Man knows he don't know how to book. He is a control freak. He don't want to share a pin. He don't want to share anything. That is very Vince McMahon light. Con Man wants yes men around him. Facts. There's no point on giving Tony Khan Man an interview. There's no point because he is going to get interviewed by a guy that's going to be a kiss ass. For example, Busted Open Radio. I'm like, why would you interview Con Man? What are you going to ask him? Softball questions? Tony Khan Man will never do an interview with a guy that's going to give him pushback. That's called being a control freak. He wants to control the narrative. He knows if he goes to a objective podcast, they are going to roast his ass. Con Man is a control freak, just like Vince McMahon. He wants yes men around him, and he wants to answer softball questions. That is a Vince McMahon trait. Now, what is reason number 5? He sees himself in small men. That's why he books them strong. That sounds like Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon loved big men. Why? Because he was a big man. Vince is a big dude, okay? When Vince McMahon was in his prime, he was what, maybe 250, 240? He was over 6'2", and he was a bodybuilder. He loved working out. That is a Vince McMahon thing. He loves big men because he sees himself in big men. Tony Khan Man, he sees himself in small men, just like how Vince McMahon sees himself in big men. They are very, very similar. They have a very similar mindset. For example, Vince McMahon loved pushing big men as world champions, as champions in general. Just like Con Man, he loves pushing small men as champions. That's what he looks for, just like Vince McMahon. They both book based on what they see in that talent. Vince McMahon has a lot in common with Bobby Lashley and Brock Lesnar and Hulk Hogan, etc. Con Man has a lot in common with Darby Allin. That's what I mean. Con Man has a lot in common with Hook. What is reason number 6? He gets bored with feuds and storylines. That's what Con Man is known for. That is a Vince McMahon trait. Vince, man, he was known for being bored very, very easily. He used to kill feuds all the time. If Vince feels like there's no heat in a feud, he will pivot to something else. That's what Vince was always known for. He was known for getting bored very easily with feuds and stories, just like Con Man. For example, what happened to the EVPs? What happened to the elite EVPs taking over the show? What happened? I thought you guys were the next NWO. Like, I don't get it. You were fucking with the production of the show because you were EVPs, right? Remember when they changed the intro to Dynamite? Okay, what happened? What happened? You can't do that. You can't get bored with a story arc. What happened to the Elite taking over all Elite Wrestling? What the fuck happened? That is a Vince McMahon trait. I lost count on how many stories that Vince McMahon killed because he was bored and he moved on to something else. That is a Vince McMahon trait. Number 7, he thinks his fans are dumb. Here's what I mean. Okay, what happened with Pac-Man and Penta and Ray Phoenix? I could have sworn Pac-Man was a part of the Death Triangle. What happened? Where is the climax? Where's the ending? What the fuck? You can't just put Pac-Man in a group and not have a cap off with his former teammates. Hell, are they still former teammates? We never had a breakup because he thinks you're dumb. He thinks you're not going to notice. That's the problem with Con Man. What happened to the motherfucking firm? Remember? It was Big Cass and Paige and Stokely Hathaway. What happened to the motherfucking firm? That's what I mean. What happened to Men of the Year? What happened with Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page? What happened with Starks and Big Cass? You think we are dumb and you think we don't care, but we do. Why is Pac-Man in the BBC now? I'm like, wow, that is a crazy transition. For the past 4 years, we have seen Pac with the Death Triangle. That was a big group, but where's the breakup? You can't just sneak and put Pac-Man into a different group. That is not how that works. That is very Vince McMahon-like. Vince, he felt like the fans were dumb and that we were not going to notice dumb shit that he used to do. Tony Khan Man does that. He moves on to dumb shit and he prays that you don't notice. Reason number 8. This is my favorite. He forces talent into 5-year contracts. That sounds like Vince McMahon from 5-6 years ago. That's what Vince McMahon used to do, but how come you marks are not roasting Con Man? This is a Vince McMahon move. This is what Vince McMahon was doing. He was signing guys to 5-year deals. Con Man is doing the same thing. This is why Cody Rhodes left. Why? Fun fact. Con Man was trying to sign Cody Rhodes to a 5-year deal, but Cody Rhodes said no. Cody Rhodes wanted a short deal with an option. Con Man said no, it has to be a 5-year deal. Dude, that's Vince McMahon. That was the recent Vince McMahon regime. He was signing guys to 5-year deals. That is a Vince McMahon move that Con Man stole. But Con Man thinks that Vince is evil. Number 9. This is one of my favorites as well. He relies on older talent. Case in point, the Hurt Business. That's what I mean. He relies on older talent to push numbers. What about Chris Jericho? What about motherfucking Bryan Danielson? All your top guys are over 40 and 50. What about Edge? Edge is 50. Christian Cage, he's 50. So why are you relying on older men to help your show? That is a Vince McMahon trait. And here's why. People used to bash Vince for pushing older talent, right? Remember? You marks were always crying about, oh man, how come they not pushing young talent? Is Con Man doing that? Con Man is not doing that. Con Man is not pushing young talent. He's pushing older men. Tony Khan Man and Vince, they both rely on older talent to push their show. They have a lot in common. Now, what is reason number 10? Both guys don't give two shits about tag team fake pro wrestling. That is a fact. Con Man don't give two shits about tag team fake pro wrestling. Look at Private Party. So after 5 years, you want to now give them a push? After 5 years with a goddamn company, you want to now give those two men a goddamn push? After 5 years? What about FTR? Those guys are boring. He don't care about the tag team division. He don't give two shits, just like Vince McMahon. Reason number 11. They both love belts. Vince McMahon, he loved having tons of belts on his show. The European Championship, the Light Heavyweight Championship, the IC belt, US belt, the Big Gold belt, the Women's Championship, the Hardcore title, the 24/7 belt. Remember? The 24/7 championship. Vince loved having titles on his show. Just like Tony Khan Man. Khan Man loves having dumb, pointless belts on his show that nobody cares about. You don't realize that less is more. The more belts you have, the more people will not give two shits about those belts. That is Vince McMahon 101. Vince loved having tons of championships. For example, why would you have the Raw Tag Team Championships? Why would you have the SmackDown Tag Team Championships when you don't give two shits about the tag team division? Both shows don't have a strong tag team division. It's like, it's very one-sided. So why would you have separate belts? That makes no sense. When Raw don't have a strong division. So why would you have two belts of the same kind? Like you think you are deep in the tag team division, and you are not. That's what Khan Man does also. He has pointless championships that nobody cares about. Reason number 12. Both men, they book the females the same way. Let's talk about Dynamite last night. I saw only one women's match. Remember a couple years ago, that dumbass hashtag, give divas a chance? How come y'all don't do that in all Elite Fake Pro Wrestling? Because every Dynamite, we might see maybe one match of women. That's it. And most of the time, it's not a long match. That sounds like Vince McMahon liked booking. When was the last time you seen a women's main event on Dynamite? I'll wait. That sounds like Vince McMahon. But at least, from time to time, Vince McMahon was putting women in the main events on Raw and SmackDown. So, right there, I think Khan Man does not respect women's fake pro wrestling. Number 13. Both men love having too many shows every week. That's what Vince McMahon was known for. He wanted fake pro wrestling all the time, every day. That was Vince McMahon's goal. He wanted all fake pro wrestling all the time, 7 days a week. Hence the WWE Network. He wanted fake pro wrestling all the time, 7 days a week. Vince loved having tons of shows every week. That sounds like Khan Man. He has Ring of Honor, he has Rampage, Dynamite, he has Collision, all these shows. And I'm like, bruh, these shows are not drawing. One of these shows gotta go. But hey, that is a Vince McMahon trait. He thinks more is less. Here is reason number 14, the last reason. Both men love part-timers. I don't know why Khan Man don't get heat for all the part-timers he books. What about the Young Bucks? What about Max? All these part-timers that he books. What about Christian Cage? Part-timer. Edge, part-timer. And obviously, I think Lashley will be a part-timer. Tony Khan Man, he books a lot of part-timers, just like Vince McMahon. But people hated Vince McMahon for giving part-timers contracts, like a Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns, Goldberg, etc., Taker, Triple H, etc., Orton. And I'm like, but Khan Man is doing the same thing. Both men love part-timers. I would say 2 years ago, I made a video about Vince McMahon retiring, and I said that this is the end of all Elite Fake Pro Wrestling. Because the moment Vince McMahon retired, all of Tony Khan Man's flaws got exposed. Because now, Khan Man does not look good by comparison anymore. It's like being the nicest guy in prison. That's what it was. That's why Con was so beloved at first. Bruh, you was compared to Vince McMahon. That is not impressive. That is not impressive. Based on people did not like him. So anything that Con did was going to be cheered for. But now, there's Triple H now. We got Shawn Michaels, Triple H. Those guys are beloved by your same audience. So now, you are now the new Vince McMahon. Shawn Michaels, Triple H. They are the good guys. Now, Triple H and Shawn Michaels, they are the new Tony Khan. And now Khan is the new Vince McMahon. The tables have turned now. Like I said, the moment Vince McMahon stepped down, I was the first one to say this is the death blow for all elite wrestling. Because now your flaws are going to be exposed. You are no longer being compared to Vince McMahon's weirdo booking. You are being compared to Shawn Michaels, Triple H, guys that are beloved by the IWC, your same audience. And trust me, Tony Khan hates this. He hates that his big bad boogeyman, Vince McMahon, is gone.